Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
We have ignition.
Yeah, someone did not clean that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a brand new stream for season 2. I am broadcasting to you live today directly from our new lunar base here. It's totally top secret, but I've got some connections through my YouTube, and they let me come up here on the condition that I keep the live stream only to 2 hours and that I have to cover a more intermediate topic. So those are the requirements for today. Hopefully that'll work out okay. I'll have to call them about getting back, but we'll worry about that later. Thank you guys for coming. Wow, I got a donation already off the bat. So this is where our money goes. Yes, the money goes to fund the Go Billy Space program. Let's see. Ibrahim. Yes, Ibrahim. First donator for today. Ibrahim. That was 2 of those the things, the pounds. Give you a dab. This is going to be the world's first dab from space. It's one small dab for man, one giant dab. I don't know. I guess for mankind. Yes. So I'm just reading some of your comments here. I wanted to start a little bit early just to give you guys an introduction. Also, because it might have taken longer to fly here, so I needed a buffer. But we'll be starting again really soon. And today we're going to be covering passive verbs. So this topic that we're going to be doing today, which, hold on, let me raise this thing up a little bit because this is kind of low, so I can read your comments better. Okay. Today's topic is actually quite large. I'll give you that information first. This is not a topic that you can just quickly absorb. This is not a topic for beginners. No matter how fast of a learner you are, this is not a topic for beginners. So if you're a beginner and you only know the alphabet and some other things, you can watch the lesson, you can take some notes for the future, but expect that you will not get it. Just expect that, because the prerequisites, I'll give you the prerequisites for today's lesson before we even start. The reason is passive voice or passive verbs, what we're going to be talking about today, is a giant topic. And it's not one that even intermediates will master. It's one that advanced learners will master, but not even intermediates. Intermediates can learn about it and use it, but it's not something you're going to get really good at until you're actually able to fluently speak the language. So with that said, the prerequisites for today's course are conjugation in all tenses. So you have to be familiar and comfortable with conjugation. First of all, okay, present tense, past tense, future tense, okay. All forms of conjugation, as well as conjugation when it's being used as an adjective. And now this isn't a completely new topic. I've done a 2-hour live stream about this topic already. You can search it on my channel. It's how to conjugate or how to use, I think it's how to conjugate action verbs into adjectives. And I did a full live stream about that. So you can watch that first. If you do want to watch this later and just kind of want to know what do I need to do it, you need to understand that concept completely already, because part of the usage of passive voice and passive verbs is in this usage. So if you're not already comfortable with how to conjugate verbs in every tense, so past, present, future, as well as past, present, and future as an adjective, and I covered that in the previous live stream. If you're not really familiar with those things, then you're not going to get much out of this lesson. It's just going to be like, wow, what is all this stuff? I'll write this down. Wow, that's a lot to learn. It's going to be like that. It's not going to be intuitive to you. If you know these things and then you learn passive voice, this lesson will feel a little bit more intuitive. Like you might feel like, oh, I get it, like that. But if you haven't already done this stuff, then you're going to be like, oh, I guess I'll write down this word and this word. It's just going to be a bunch of learning new verbs and learning general new things without a way for you to actually use what you're learning today. So that's the first warning. The other thing is also, you need to be at least a mid-beginner or higher. And by what I mean by that is you need to know not all basic grammar. That would be, intermediate or something. But you have to have all of the basic grammar. So you would need to know, of course, you would have already learned colors, numbers, basic ways to describe things, not just conjugation rules, but how to kind of connect sentences together, basic sentence structure, the ability to make full sentences, whether they're correct or not, you'll still make mistakes, but the ability to make full sentences in Korean, I'd say starts around this level, the mid-beginner. So you want to at least be a mid-beginner level before you try to do passive, or again, for the same reason, you're not going to be able to actually apply it. So you can learn passive voice and passive verbs as soon as you finish learning the alphabet. You could, but you wouldn't actually be able to use those in any Korean that you're speaking unless you already can make some basic sentences. So this doesn't mean you have to be intermediate, advanced speaker to be able to use today's topic. Just keep this in mind that if you're not able to make basic sentences already, if you're not at least at like a middle beginner level, then you will be lost by today's lesson. So that's one of the reasons I came up to the moon today. I figured, today we're going to be doing an intermediate level lesson. We're going to new heights. So how can I show them new heights? So let's go to the moon. That there's no higher place we can reach right now, well, a human, than the moon. So let me just check the chat for a moment. Aehimang, I have a feeling this lesson is going to be out of this world. Yes, it will be. I missed it because Billy started early. Yeah, it's okay. You can come back and you can watch the launch later if you want. So I wanted to start a little bit early just to give you guys an introduction with the prerequisites, but not just to start the lesson early. It's because I knew that this lesson requires a bit of extra explanation, as it is our very first intermediate topic that we've ever done for these live streams. Yay! It's like, so make sure you're okay with that for the prerequisites. With that said, I'm not sure how many viewers we'll get today because, like I said, all of my other lessons have been beginning level, low beginning level, like, basics, or bring someone up from knowing nothing except the alphabet to being able to use a certain concept. That's what most of them have been. This is the first one that assumes that you're a little bit higher. So if you guys you want more intermediate lessons, we'll keep doing more. But if you guys feel like, uh-oh, Billy, I still need more review on this concept, which is basic concept, then, we might not want to do too many intermediate concepts, but I'm happy with whatever. If you guys want, we could just do a bunch of advanced concepts, but I might only get like, I don't know, a couple dozen people showing up. So I want to do what the majority wants to do. So we'll see how this lesson goes. And if it goes well, then in the future, feel free, you guys can keep voting for the intermediate topics. So first intermediate topic. So let's see how it goes. Zilly said, just a reminder, and if you want, please like this video. Oh yeah, remember to like the video, smash the subscribe button, commit genocide on the alarm bell, destroy the upvote. I don't know, whatever they say at the YouTube videos. Like it if you like it. Don't like it if you don't like it. I don't really care. I'm doing this live stream anyway. So first thing, in order to get, so I guess we'll get started a little bit early, so a few minutes early. Billy. Okay, so we're gonna get started today. In order to do this lesson, we're gonna need to talk about the difference between active voice and passive voice. You know what? Oh, I wanna use my other marker, but my other one's green. So I'll just get some new colors. This one still works okay. So you need to know the difference between active voice and passive voice. So what is active voice and passive voice? Well, active voice and passive voice are used in English too. This is not a concept that you have to learn for Korean specifically. You actually might have learned these when writing essays in your English class. I'm pretty sure a lot of other languages, probably most languages, have an active voice and a passive voice. What that means is an active voice is the majority, nearly everything that we speak in languages is spoken in the active voice. So passive, what we're going to be learning today, passive voice, passive verbs, are not commonly used. Well, they're less commonly used. I'll say they are used, they're just less commonly used. They're used in specific situations. Active voice is any time the subject of a sentence. So whatever is in the sentence is also the one, the thing, the person who is doing or who is, in Korean, you might have an action verb or a descriptive verb. Whoever is that descriptive verb or whoever is doing that descriptive verb is the subject. That's it. So it sounds, well, Billy, isn't that like every sentence with a subject? It's the majority of sentences with a subject. So for example, so let me complete that sentence. The majority of sentences with a subject will just be an active voice because you have a subject, right? The subject does something or the subject is something. For example, you can say like, let me give you this one. So first we're just talking about active voice. So we can say like, I ate kimchi, okay? I ate kimchi. Simple sentence. We have a subject. In this case, the subject is I, but it could be anything. It could be I am sad, then I is still the subject. Okay, I is the subject, and the subject does a verb or is a verb if it's a descriptive verb. So here the verb is ate. So we have a subject doing a verb. It's an active voice sentence. 저는 김치를 먹었어요. This is why I said you need to be familiar with all conjugations. That way you can easily understand these examples also. So 저는 김치를 먹었어요. So you have a subject, 저는, and you have a verb, 먹었어요. And who or what does that verb or is that verb? Well, a subject, right? That's it. So this seems very like, duh, right? Yeah, but there are sentences where that doesn't happen. And those sentences are passive voice. So let me give you another example though first. Let me switch this pen. Maybe today is the last day of that blue pen because it's kind of getting a little weak. Okay, so let's say 철수 likes watching movies. So we have a subject, 철수, right? Or something doing something. Well, what is he doing? Well, he likes watching movies. A subject is the one who is doing the action. Okay, 철수 씨는 movies, 영화 보는 것을 좋아해요. So 철수, we have a subject, 철수, and he's doing an action. Likes, 좋아해요, likes watching movies, right? This is also active voice. Let's do one more, just so you can kind of get the idea, really get the idea of what I'm talking about. Let's do something else. So let's say, are you happy? Are you happy? Well, the subject in English is you, though we learned last week that you can't quite say you in Korean so easily. It depends, you don't have to say it, but you can assume that the subject is there in Korean even if you don't say it. The subject is you. So if you were to make the sentence, 행복하세요. 행복하세요, literally, is it happy? But the subject, you can assume it to be you because we're using honorifics. From last week's lesson, we talked about this, how to say you in Korean. So 행복하세요, the subject is you, although we're not saying the subject in Korean, it's assumed to be. And the action, or here it's actually a descriptive verb, 행복하다, to be happy. The subject is the one who is doing the descriptive verb, or who is the descriptive verb. So these are all active voice, and that's probably 99% of the sentences you're going to make, or at least over 90%. But there are times when that doesn't apply. Now, passive voice is the opposite. Passive voice, however, is when the subject of a sentence is not the one doing the action, but the subject is the object. When the subject is the object, by object I mean, you might use the object marker, but whenever the subject is the object of a verb. So, the subject is the object. What could that be? Well, instead of saying something like, I ate kimchi. Why did I say kimchi? I ate kimchi. Right? In this sentence, it's just active voice because I is the subject and I is doing something. What if we were to make the subject of the sentence the thing that a verb is doing something to? Well, it's called passive voice, and it's the exact same in English. We simply would say, kimchi was eaten, right? And in English, you have to learn this was eaten, like you have to learn a different form for a lot of verbs in English. And in Korean, it's similar. You have to learn a slightly different form of verbs in order to use them as passive. So you can say the kimchi was eaten, and if you wanted to specify by me, that's not important. You could say it's optional. You don't have to say by me, but you could just say the kimchi was eaten. Now you have a subject. Well, what's the subject? Well, it's not I. The subject is kimchi. But what is the kimchi doing? The kimchi is not doing anything except the kimchi is the object of a verb in the sentence. So that's an action verb. So the action verb is eat. Now, someone else is eating it. I am eating it by me or by 철수 or whoever. But the kimchi, the subject, is being affected by that verb. It's the object of that verb. So if you were to say the kimchi was eaten, right? What is the difference between saying I ate the kimchi and the kimchi was eaten by me? Well, if you say I ate the kimchi, it sounds better. Flat out. I ate kimchi sounds better. It's more common that you would say that. You wouldn't really say, well, the kimchi was eaten by me. I mean, there's no real reason why you would need to say that, right? But you could. You could. And that's what passive voice is. Now, there are times when you really, really want to say, let me just check this. There will be times when you really, really want to use that passive. And in fact, there's also times where you need to use passive voice in English and in Korean. So those are the times that you need to know it. But the majority of your sentences, you don't need to just change it into passive voice. Changing your sentence into a passive sentence will not make your Korean sound more natural. It won't make you sound smarter. It will make your Korean sound kind of awkward. For example, what if you were to say, hey, where's the, maybe I should change the sentence. No, I think that'd be okay. So what if you were to say, hey, where's the kimchi? Did anyone see the kimchi? Well, would you reply to that sentence, the kimchi was eaten by me? No, you could, right? Because you're talking about kimchi. Someone said, where is the kimchi? And you reply, oh, the kimchi was eaten by me. You don't really say that. You still say active voice. You still say, I ate the kimchi. I'm sorry. It was me, right? I ate it. You're not going to really say the kimchi, well, the kimchi was eaten by me. Ha ha ha. Like you ate it, right? You ate it. Just fess up to it. So the kimchi was eaten by me is not really going to be natural most of the time. So in general usage, if you just want to say something, you will not need the passive voice at all. You need the passive voice when you need to emphasize that. And we'll talk about that a bit later. So let's do this sentence then first. So passive voice is anytime, again, the subject is the object of some sort of action. Oh, we still got 183 people. Something talking about Yoda? Yoda, you don't know Yoda? Don't know him, you do? So let's do that sentence. Let's say the kimchi was eaten by 철수. Okay? 김치가. So we have 김치가. Now we're going to add 철수 in later, so I'll leave the space blank. 김치가 and normally you would say, right, in past tense, to eat, 먹었어요, right? But since this is passive, it uses a different verb. Just like English, you don't say the kimchi ate by 철수 or the kimchi ate by me. You say was eaten. You have to use a different verb. And there's a lot of slightly different variations of verbs you have to memorize in English. It's complicated. In Korean, unfortunately, is kind of complicated as well. The verb for to be eaten is 먹히다. 먹히다. The regular verb to eat is just 먹다. So passive is 먹히다. Now, you might think and say, oh, so I just add he before the ta, and now I have a passive version. No, unfortunately, it's not that easy either. There's a lot of different syllables that can go here. Sometimes the word completely changes to become passive. So you have to learn it on a word by word basis, unfortunately. So 먹히다 is to be eaten. So if you were to say the kimchi was eaten, you'd say 김치가 먹혔어요. It conjugates the same as a regular verb, but the verb itself is different. Now, if you were to say 김치가 먹혔어요 to somebody, they would be like, what grammar book did you just swallow? Like, what's your problem? Why are you talking like that? Just like it would sound awkward in English to say, the kimchi was eaten, right? Just kind of awkward. And it's the same in Korean. You know, grammatically correct doesn't always mean natural. So 김치가 먹혔어요, despite being grammatically correct, is awkward. You would just say, I ate the kimchi, right? You don't need to say 김치가, and to say by me, we'll do that here. So 김치가 먹혔어요 literally means the kimchi. So kimchi is the subject, and the subject is being affected by the verb. So 먹혔어요, was eaten, to be eaten, not to eat. If you were to say by, so to specify who does something or what does something, you use 에게. Literally, you say to. You're saying to. And you could say 철수 씨에게 먹혔어요. The kimchi was eaten, and then as an adverb, works as an adverb, this by, you would say by 철수. before I go further, I want to teach you one more way that you can say by. So just to get this out of the way. 에, 의해, 서 optional. Just teaching you one more way. You can write this down as a note if you'd like. This is another way to say by. This one is more, this one's more formal sounding. It means like by way of, or through, or as, or by this person. It's a little more formal, standard way of saying by in any case. 에, so you put you put what you want to say first, and then you follow it by 에, 의해서, or 의해. The 서 is optional again. So you can either use this form, or you can just say 에게 for to. There's a couple other ways you could do it too, but these are the most standard ones. So again, I just want to say that this sentence is not natural at all. So you can say it, grammatically it means the kimchi was eaten by Charsu, but nobody in their right mind would say the sentence, the kimchi was eaten by Charsu, in most situations. There could be a situation where you would want to say that, but it's not going to be regular speaking. It's not going to be your regular usage. Let me just check the chat for a moment. You guys all doing okay? Oh yeah, we're going to talk about 되다 and 하다 as well. Those are other ways. I have an outline actually of today's whole live stream. It's 2 pages. It's really packed with like time on it so that I can keep the time. Let's see. Right now we should be starting passive voice, and yes, we are. Okay. So because of that, the next thing I wanted to say is that we had the verb 먹혔어요. We had 먹히다, right? This is a passive verb, to be eaten. You cannot use passive verbs with an object. I'm sorry, with an object marker, because it's not. You are not to be eaten something. Something is eaten. So you would mark whatever is eaten by, the subject marker, or even the topic marker, or if you want to say do also, or man only. You cannot say 김치를. With this one, you cannot say 김치를 먹혔어요. That makes no sense. No sense at all. 김치가, 김치는, 김치도, 김치만. Any of these are okay. You cannot use any passive verb with an object. You cannot use passive voice with an object because there is no object. The object is the subject. Remember the first explanation I gave how active voice is different from passive voice is that in passive voice, the subject is the object. So there is no object marker. It is the subject. So do not use it with the object marker. I've seen that a lot from beginners who learn passive voice early. So if anyone's watching who's a beginner and learning, be careful about this. I've seen people who learn the passive voice early on and don't learn that they think it's just another action verb. But actually, when you change it into passive, it's a passive verb. It's no longer a regular active verb. So it does not take an object. So it's only used as is. You don't have to worry about putting it with an object or anything. And that can help. What can help for that is if you write down the passive verb, if you write down its actual meaning, don't just write down be eaten, write down to be eaten, like that. And then 먹다, just the regular verb, write down to eat. If you just write down eat and eaten, then you might use them incorrectly because in English we might say, I have already eaten, 이미 먹었어요, right? But in Korean, you wouldn't use the passive voice for that. It's just active. So write down the full verb with including to eat for 먹다. And then for passive, it's always to be, for example, to be or something, to be eaten, 먹히다. So I know it's really messy, but you guys should be okay with it, right? So write them down more accurately and you'll avoid that mistake. I think the problem, some people misuse verbs because they write them down like 하다, they just write down do, but it doesn't mean do because you can't say to someone, do this, like 이거 하다. Doesn't make any sense. It means to do. So it kind of reminds you that, oh, I have to conjugate it. Oh, I see, this is how it's used. So write down a better definition when you write down these verbs so that you don't get confused with using them later. Another thing is a pro tip. If you want to recognize a verb and try to find out if it's passive or not, and we'll actually talk about this in detail at the end of the lesson, but one quick pro tip is if you see an object marker used with the verb, it is not a passive verb. So if you ever were to see an object marker followed by some sort of verb, you can know 100% well, as long as it's the object marker directly with the verb, you can know 100% that that is an active verb and not a passive verb. So that's a good way to know also, because passive verbs cannot use object markers because they don't take an object. They are simply describing something. Just like a descriptive verb can't take an object marker ever. So you can never have a descriptive verb like 있다, to exist, or 필요하다, to need, to be necessary, because those are descriptive verbs. They cannot take an object. All right, let's check the chat for a moment. Okay. Oh yeah, another thing is I wanted to point out that the nice thing about passive in Korean is that the order of the sentence is the same. So with our example, I ate the kimchi, or the kimchi was eaten, we have kimchi, then we have some sort of marker, whether it's the object marker or subject marker, and then we have the verb. So when we had I ate the kimchi was 먹었어요, right? When we had was eaten, it was 먹혔어요. But the order of the sentence, so we had 김치를 먹었어요, or 김치가 먹혔어요. The only thing that changed here, besides the marker, which has to change, is the verb. You don't have to reorganize the sentence. So in English, you would say, I ate the kimchi, right? I ate, so first subject, verb, ate, then the object, kimchi. In Korean, you don't have to switch it. You don't have to say the kimchi was eaten. You don't have to switch it and say kimchi was eaten like you do in English. You have to reverse the sentence in English. It's very complicated. In Korean, you don't have to change the order of the sentence at all. 저는 김치를 먹었어요. I ate the kimchi. The kimchi, well, you wouldn't say 저는 because there's no reason to say you in the second one. But you don't have to change the order of the sentence at all. So it's the same thing. Kimchi, verb. Kimchi, verb. So that's kind of a nice thing, is that the order is the exact same whether you use active voice or passive voice. So it's very easy to switch a sentence into passive voice as long as you know the passive version of that active verb. And let's see. Oh yeah, and one more thing. So again, just so I can make this really clear, passive voice is not necessary most of the time. Instead of saying 김치가 먹혔어요, 100% better just to say, for example, who ate it? So you could say 철수 씨가 먹었어요, or 먹은 거예요. Whatever past tense you want. 철수 씨가 먹은 거예요. So just 철수 ate it. And you could start by saying 김치는, like, as for the kimchi, let's talk about the kimchi. 철수 씨가 먹은 거예요. 철수 ate it. You don't need to, if you really want to describe the kimchi, right? So maybe you might think, well, what if I really want to just talk about the kimchi? Well, like the kimchi, well, 철수 ate it. It was eaten by 철수. Like, yeah, the kimchi was eaten by 철수. You still don't need to use the passive voice. You can just say 김치는. So let's talk about kimchi now, okay? 김치는 철수 씨가 먹은 거예요. 철수 씨 ate it. This is not passive voice. This is just regular active voice. 철수 씨가 먹었어요. As for the kimchi, 철수 ate it. So we don't have to change anything around. You don't need to use passive voice for the majority of cases. So you don't need to feel like, oh, I have to use passive voice for this sentence. You probably don't. There are times when you do, and we'll talk about those next. So, if you do need to change the passive voice, actually, I'll talk about this a little bit later. Let's see. Yeah, I can't really talk about when you need to change it until after I tell you how to change it first. So let's talk about first, how can you change a sentence to passive voice? That depends completely on the verb. For verbs that are something 하다. Oh, I got a donation. April Romero. Wow, $10 donation. Awesome. Thank you, Billy, for your lessons. Watching your videos are always fun and very informative. All right, thank you, April Romero. April Romero. Awesome, thank you. You see, there's a little bit of a delay between your donation and the lights. That's because of the time it takes for the donation to hit the moon. So it's a little bit slower for today. Let me give you a dab for that. Oh, I should do like a moon dab with my helmet back on. Okay, so anytime you have an action verb that ends with hada, for example, 공부하다, to study, 요리하다, to cook, or anything like that that ends in hada, you can change it easily to a passive voice by changing hada to 되다. Now, this has to be an action verb where you normally could separate this from hada. So this is another reason why this isn't really an easy beginner topic. You have to be familiar already with how to do hada verb separation. And by that, I mean you have to already know how to use the negative verb forms. So you have to be able to make verbs negative. And you have to already know which types of verbs can become negative with an and which types of verbs can become negative only with the ji, an, ta ending. This is any hada verb that can become negative, cannot become negative with an normally. So 공부하다, you can separate it. It's actually two pieces. 요리하다. What you cannot do is something like 좋아하다, because 좋아하다 is not a separatable verb. You cannot say 좋아 space 하다 ever. It's only one word that means to like. In fact, this 좋아하다 actually comes from a pure Korean verb 좋다, meaning to be good. It's just a conjugation of that. You cannot just take any hada verb and split it. But if you know that the verb can already be split, then you can do that. So you cannot say 좋아되다. That makes no sense. But any other verb with hada, you can just change the hada to 되다. And then, so actually, let me give you an example of that. Let's just 공부, not 공부. Let's do 준비. 준비하다, normally 준비를 하다 means to prepare. The 를 is optional. So you might see 준비하다 or 준비를 하다, to prepare. If you want to say, what if you wanted to do passive? Well, what would the passive form of to prepare be? Well, to be prepared, right? So you could say like, I prepared the documents, or the documents will be prepared, right? What if you wanted to stress to your boss? Like your boss says, hey, are the documents ready? We needed those an hour ago. And you want to say, no, don't worry. I'm not just going to do the documents. Those documents will be prepared in 30 minutes. Maybe you don't want to say you're going to do them. Maybe you're like managing some other people. You just want to say, it doesn't matter who will do them. Don't worry, boss. The documents will be prepared. You want to say will be prepared. To be prepared. You want to use passive voice there. If you do, then you can do that. You can say 준비. Now it separates and it becomes 되다. So 하다 goes away. It changes to 되다, to become. And then here, not the object marker. Because remember, this is passive. 되다 itself is being used as a passive verb. So instead, it would use 가 or 이, 이 or 가, the subject marker. So instead of seeing 을 or 를, the object marker with 하다, it would change to become 이 or 가 with 되다. So that's one point I should make clear, that anytime you change 하다 to a 되다 verb to make it passive, this part also changes. So this part is optional, just like this part is optional. So you don't have to say 준비가 되다. You can just say 준비되다. You don't have to say it. But if you were to say it, it has to be the subject marker, because now you have a passive verb. You don't have an active verb anymore. 되다 is only passive here. It can't affect something. You're not 되다ing something. Just something is 되다. So let me look at the chat for a second. I'm full on pancakes. How many pancakes did you eat? Okay. So that's an easy way to change if it's 하다, you can change it to 되다. Let's do some examples with that then. Let's see, how are we on time? And we're kind of okay. Okay, so you can say, for example, 시작하다. So okay, 모임, a meeting, 모임을 시작했어요. 모임을 시작했어요. I started, or someone started, right? Let's say I. 저는 모임을 시작했어요. I started the meeting. I started the meeting. So just started. I just started the meeting. But what if you want to say the meeting was started, right? You want to use passive voice. Well, 모임 이. Notice because to be started doesn't affect something. There's no object. So you have to say the meeting is the one that was started. So 시작됐어요. Sorry, I know I said that loud. 됐어요. 모임이 시작됐어요. So the meeting was started. Or I or somebody started the meeting. So this first one is active voice and the second one is passive voice. So can you see the difference between these two sentences? One says I started or he started, she started, who knows, someone started. Someone started the meeting, and this says the meeting simply was started. This kind of brings up one of the uses of passive voice, that when you're using passive voice, you don't necessarily have to say who did it. And that could be useful to you. It could be useful to not have to say who did something. Or what if who did something is not important at all? What if who did something is not important at all? So what if somebody says, hey, I'm late. I have to go to the meeting. And it's a meeting at your company. Which of these sentences would you want to choose? Like, oh no, it's already started. Or would you say, oh, sorry, I already started it, or they already started it? You could say, oh, it's too late. They already started the meeting. But you could also say, it's too late. The meeting already started. In some cases in English, you would prefer to say the meeting already started because you don't need to say they started the meeting. It doesn't really matter. You're just talking about the meeting. You want to focus on the meeting and say, no, that meeting, it's already started. And it sounds natural to say it that way. In fact, a lot of the times, if you want to know if a sentence would sound natural in Korean passive or English passive, in Korean passive, is you think, does it sound really natural in English? If it sounds really natural in English, it probably could be okay in Korean. Not always, but probably is okay in Korean. Because Koreans use passive too, they just use it less than English. But something like the meeting already started, 모임이, we could add here, already, 이미, already. 모임이 이미 시작됐어요. The meeting already was started. That's fine to say too. So you can say either of these sentences. Yes, two, they were fluffy and medium-sized. Two, amateur. Pancake amateur. You gotta do at least four. At least four. I'm the pancake gatekeeper here. Okay, so another one we could do would be let's see, how are we on time? Oh, we got time for one more. Okay, I already did 준비하다. That was the first one I did. Let's do 이해하다. Let's do did you understand the homework? Okay, no, let's do class. 수업. So 수업 means class, like a course or class that you attend. 수업을, let's say 오늘, today's, 오늘 수업을 이해했어요. 오늘 수업을 이해했어요. I understood today's class. Or actually, let's make it a question. 오늘 수업을 이해했어요? Did you understand? Right? Just active voice. Did you understand today's class? Well, you could also say, was today's class understood? 오늘 수업이 이해됐어요. So exact same, 오늘 수업이, because you're not doing, oh, I got a donation. Clay Petroci. Awesome. Hi, this is a bit advanced, but my Hangul is going great. Keep up the good work. All right, thanks. Yeah, I apologize for any beginners watching. This is definitely an intermediate lesson. So it's our first intermediate lesson. Yeah, thanks. I'll write it up here. Petroci. It's a franc. The pound. Sorry, I always get them confused. The pound and the franc because it looks like an F, so it makes me think of like franc, but I know they don't use francs anymore. They switched to euros. Okay, I gotta do a dab. All right, thanks, Clay. Okay, so you can easily switch it to a passive voice if it's a 하다 verb. So was today's class understood? 수업이 이해, sorry, I know I didn't write this completely. 이해, that would be there. 오늘 수업이 이해됐어요? Was today's class understood? You know, you probably wouldn't need to say that. You would just say, did you understand today's class, right? But you could. Grammatically, you could. So, and there's context when you will want to do that. So like I gave before with the meeting. Or you might want to say, 서류 means documents. So documents. This is a good word to know. A good vocabulary to know. 서류 means the documents or documents. 서류가 준비 다 completely all or completely 준비 다 됐어요. 준비 다 됐어요 is a common expression for it is completely prepared. So the documents are completely prepared. You can say this. You don't have to say, oh, my team finished preparing the documents completely, which is good too. What if you just want to say, I'm not going to say who did it. I don't want to say who did it. I just want to say the documents, don't worry about who did it. They are completely prepared. 서류가 준비 다 됐어요. They're all prepared. And that would be a case when passive sounds great. It sounds really natural. Now, you don't have to say it. You could still say 우리 팀, like my team, our team. 우리 팀은 서류를 준비 다 했어요. You can say 우리 팀은 서류를 준비 다 했어요. My team, we finished or 다 준비했어요. We finished preparing the documents completely. Or you can just say the documents are completely prepared. So you can use both. And passive can be a useful way to avoid saying avoid saying who did something. So you're still saying a subject, which would be documents, but you would avoid saying who actively did it. Who is the cause of that? And like in English, you might want to say, right? You might want to say, oh, the window is broken. The window got broken, right? You don't want to say someone broke the window. You just want to say, oh, the window is broken because it's not important who did it. It's just important that the window is broken, right? These types of cases are really natural to say, to use the passive tense when you want to avoid saying who did something or when it's not important, right? Or of course, to avoid it, if it was you and you don't want to say, I broke the window, you just say, oh, the window is broken. It got broken, right? And you don't want to say, I broke it or someone broke it because then they might say, oh, who broke it? You just want, oh, it's broken. It's broken. Let's focus on that. So it can be useful. The next type of verb is actually quite simple. Verbs that end with nada are all passive, and verbs that end with neda are all active. So if you have a verb, can you think of any verbs that end with nada or any verbs that end with neda? Can you think of any verbs? I don't know, if you can, write them down in the chat. I'm curious what you guys already know to be a passive or an active verb. And I'll give you some examples too. 창문이 부서졌어요. Okay. Heck, it isn't important. Who's paying for my window? Yeah, exactly. 고장 내다, 고장 나다. Yeah, it's nice, Leonardo. 만나다. Sorry. Not every verb with nada. I should clear that. It's not 만나다. So most verbs. Let me clarify that. Not every verb. Someone found it. I was thinking when I was writing this lesson, I'm like, every verb. Yeah, I can't think of a single exception. 만나다. 만나다 is definitely active to meet someone. Okay, most verbs that end with nada and neda, but not every single one. Okay, most of them, including 태어나다, to be born, 고장나다, 고장내다, 화나다, 화내다. Yep. 끝나다, 끝내다. Also 보내다. Well, I guess it's true. Yeah, 보내다 is active voice. Okay. 지나다. Yep, 지나다 and 지내다. Those are both true. So that's why Koreans ask 잘 지내? 잘 지내? Or 잘 지내고 있어? 지내, this is an active voice. It means, are you doing your day well? Or you would say 지나, to like something is happening. So simply something is going along. 끝나다 and 끝내다 are two common ones. So let's do those ones. 끝나다 and 끝내다. So both of these. 끝나다 is passive voice. Something finishes. 끝내다 is active voice. I or somebody finishes, completes something. So you can use this in a sentence just like, I guess we could just do 숙제. 숙제 is easy. Okay, we can just do 숙제. How are we on time? 40. Okay, we got 5 minutes or less to do this. 숙제를, would I say 숙제를 끝냈어요? Or 끝났어요? I'll put this here. 숙제를 끝났어요 or 숙제를 끝냈어요. And then also for this. Oops, I was like thinking, I'm like thinking too far ahead of this letter. Okay, would you say 숙제가 끝났어요 or 숙제가 끝냈어요? Which one do you think it would be? So this sentence, the first one would say, I finished my homework. And this one would say, the homework was finished. Let's see what you guys got. 숙제를 끝났어요. Sleet stalker. You got it backwards. Because remember, 내다 is active. Rowan sees. Me, my, me. You got it right too. 숙제가 끝났어요. And as well as Rowan sees got it right. Yes. So because the any verb with 내다 is active, if you have the object marker here, that means it has to be doing something to something. Well, the verb is doing something to homework. So 끝냈어요. Here, it's not doing anything to it. If you were to say 숙제가 끝냈어요, grammatically you could. Grammatically you can say 숙제가 끝냈어요, but it makes no sense at all. What it means is the homework finished something. Is it possible for homework to move around and do something? No. I mean, maybe some weird fantasy world, it would sound awkward. Grammatically, it's okay, but it's completely contextually wrong in every context. 끝났어요. So, what if your mom asks, how is your homework going? Would you want to reply, 숙제를 끝냈어요? Or 숙제가 끝났어요? You can use both. What if it's not homework? What if it's class? 수업. So you would say 수업을 끝냈어요 or 수업이 끝났어요. If you're a student going to class, you can only say one of these. Which one, what do you think, A or B? If you're a student, which one can you say? You can only say one. One of them is wrong to say. The other one's the only one you could say. So this is a case where you have to use passive voice because it would be wrong to use active voice in this context. I don't know what you guys think. Okay, which one's the correct one? First person guessed, a couple people guessing B. All right. Does anyone want to try guessing A? B, B. B, B, B. Okay, now you guys just copying answers from each other. Okay. Yes, that's right. B is the only correct one. But now here's the follow-up question. What would it mean if I said 수업을 끝냈어요? Because this is grammatically perfectly fine. 끝내다 means to finish something, active voice, so you can have an object. So what would this mean? Who could say A? When could I say A? I don't know what you guys think. C? Hayden? Yeah, nice. Blood Falcon 2K7, perfect. Yeah, and Psychotic One. You guys are right. A teacher, and only a teacher could say A. A teacher could also say B. Okay, today, class, kids, today's class is finished. 오늘 수업이 끝났어요. Today's class is finished. Or 수업을, maybe you want to say something like 일찍, early. 수업을 일찍 끝났어요. I finished class early today. I ended the class. Like I actually finished it. Not that it finished, right? In English, that can be a little bit vague. In English, if you say I finished class, it doesn't mean you were the one that ended it. It just means you're done. It's over. You're actually saying it's over in English, but we do things differently in English. But in Korean, it's very clear. To finish something means you are the one that is ending it. So if you were to say 수업을 일찍 끝냈어요, I am the teacher and I decided to end class early. So these are both okay, but you can see in this case, you have to use passive voice unless you're a teacher. It would sound really awkward to say you finished class, but you could say you finished your homework, right? You could, with our previous example, you could say both. I finished my homework, or the homework is finished. Both are perfectly okay. So using passive voice, although most of the time, the huge majority of the time is not necessary, there are times when you actually really need to do it, and it 100% has to do with context. So really think about the context and think about, do you need to use passive voice here? In this example, yes, you do. You can't use active voice for that. So if you want to change an active verb ending in neda to passive, you just change it to nada, the ending to nada. I have some more examples of this, but we unfortunately don't have time for it today. I'll just tell you one more. 태어나다 to be born. So if you were to say a baby was born, you'd say 아기가 태어났어요. The baby was born. If you wanted to say I bore a baby, you can't use 태어나다. You can't say 아기를 태어났어요. I bore a baby. Some people think that because this means to be born. So they think it's like, oh, I bored a baby. I had a baby. You know, no one says bored. Bored. He bore a child. Yeah, I guess you say she, but not he. I guess you can say she bored a child, unless you're watching the movie Junior. To say to have a kid, an active voice is not 태어내다. This is actually a different one. It's not 태어내다. It's still 태어나다. If you want to say to have a kid, use a different verb, which is 낳다, which conjugates in the past tense as 낳았어요, like that, or 낳아요 in present tense. So you have to use a completely different verb, which this one means to give birth to. So I did want to give this example because this is an exception, as well as the other one someone gave, 만나다. 만나다 does not become passive by becoming 만내다. 만나다 only becomes passive with a different verb, which we can talk about that later. It's not really important. To be met, he was met by 3 people. Hey, you wouldn't really even use that. Okay. Let me just check here. 애기. Yeah, 애기, someone asked about 애기. That's dialect, but it's a really common dialect. As well as just saying or 애기, 아기. As well as there's another dialect word, They just say This is Busan dialect. I know I don't usually teach you guys much, but I'll teach you one more Busan dialect word. Means child in Busan dialect. They say So if you want to ask about your kid, like, how's the kid? Hey, wife, how's the kid? You say 아는. So how about the kid? As for the kid, 아는. So you'll hear 애기 a lot. If I'm speaking Korean, I'll say 애기 most of the time. But if I'm teaching you guys, I'll teach you 아기 because that's the official one. You can always learn 애기 later. But you don't want to write 애기 in like an essay or on some document or anything. It just sounds like slangish. Okay, we have to move on to the next one. Another common one, super common. 바꾸다. What does 바꾸다 mean? Who knows what 바꾸다 means? 바꾸다. Yes, 바꾸다 is to change. And 바뀌다 is to be changed. So 바뀌다 is the passive form of 바꾸다. Notice how it's not just adding an extra sound. It's actually like, it looks similar, but it's a different word from to change. So you have to learn all these different verbs in order to be able to use passive voice. And I admit that it's complicated because you have to learn a new verb for every verb. But at the same time, it's not complicated because you don't have to memorize 1,000 passive verbs. I'll say that. You don't have to know how to say every single verb in the passive tense because a lot of the times you can avoid it. A lot of the times you can just say active voice instead. And we'll talk about how to do that as well. That's coming up today's lesson. So 바꾸다 is to change something. So let me give you the sentence. So what if you wanted to say the light, the 신호등, is a traffic light. 신호등. This is a traffic light. How would you say the traffic light changed? Would you use 바꾸다? The traffic light changed. Would you use A or B? Would you say 바꿨어요 with A Or would you say 바뀌었어요 with B? So A or B? Which one do you think? The traffic light changed. Yes, haha, I got people saying A and B this time. Yes, yes. One of them is right. One of them is wrong. Both of them are grammatically correct. Grammatically, sure. In some context, some otherworldly context, one of them can be correct. Noah Deeps, both sound kind of right to me. Interesting. No, one of them sounds completely wrong in Korean. And I'll talk about why. Okay, I got you guys. Yes, I got you. I wanted to give an example where I'd get people giving, instead of giving all the same answers. Because, yes, you might think, because I said the light changed. You might think it's 바꾸다, right? Change. But remember, 바꾸다 is active. 바꾸다 has to take an object. So in this case, if you were to say 신호등을 바꿨어요, even if you were to say 신호등을 바꿨어요, it would mean somebody changed the light. Is somebody changing the light? Is somebody controlling the switch on the light and making it green or red? No. I mean, it's an algorithm, I'm pretty sure. So somebody's not changing it, so you can't use active. And if you were to say 신호등이 바꿨어요, that means the light bulb, the light itself is alive. And the light bulb changed something. And the object that it's changing is unknown because there's no object marker. We don't know what the light is changing, but the light is changing something. So remember, this is active voice, 바꾸다. So something is being changed. Whether what's being changed is the light. If you said 신호등을 바꿨어요, I changed the light. Maybe I have the keys to control the light. Or 신호등이, the light is what's doing the changing. 바꾸다, what is it changing? We don't know. Something else. 신호등이, I don't know, the light is changing the universe. I don't know if the light's alive. So this one makes grammatically zero sense. Although it's correct grammatically, you can say 바꿨어요. It means the light changed something, but it doesn't mean the light was changed or changed by itself. You need to use 바뀌다. You have to say the light changed. This is tricky because in English, in English we say change for both of these. We say to change, the light changed, or I changed, the light changed, whether it's passive or active voice. In English, we say the exact same thing, which makes this confusing in English. So learn these verbs in Korean that 바꾸다 means it's an active voice. So it has to change something. So it'll take an object. Whether you say the object in the sentence or not, it is changing something else. 바뀌다 was changed. So there is no object here. Instead, the light is what's changing. So yeah, you have to use B for this. Abs are the only answer? What? Yeah, so you have to use B for that. Does that make sense though? Because I know a lot of you had put, not a lot, about half and half. Some of you had put A and some of you put B. But I want to make sure that those who put A understand why it's not. Not just saying that you guys are wrong, because everyone's wrong until you learn the answer. So, okay, another one. 쓰다. 쓰다, let's talk about how it means write. To write something with 쓰다. 쓰이다. Active and passive. To be written. To be written. So we'll take two examples. Let's say a book written in Korean. 한국말로 in, with, so in Korean. 쓴, this is past tense. This is why you have to know the conjugation of every tense, because or else you won't even know what this means. 쓴, past tense of this verb 쓰다 used as an adjective. 한국말로 쓴 책. A book that someone wrote, active voice, this active voice, 한국말로 쓴 책. A book that someone did it because it's an active verb. Someone wrote this book in Korean. So let's just say EAO at the end. So what if I hold up, so let's pretend that this is a book that's written in Korean. This is a book, right? So this is 한국말로 쓴 책이에요. So if I say 한국말로 쓴 책이에요, it means this is a book that someone wrote. We don't know who, because I didn't say it in the sentence. I can say 철수 씨가 쓴, right? The book that 철수 wrote. Again, this is from the adjectives. Sorry, this is from the action verbs into adjectives lesson that we did prior. So you have to know that in order to understand this form. So this is a book that 철수 wrote in Korean. It's totally fine to say. But what if you don't want to say who wrote it? You don't want to say somebody wrote this book in Korean. So this is a book that someone wrote in Korean. You want to say this is a book that is written in Korean. 쓰인. So you just use 쓰이다 as an adjective, just like before. So check to describe check. But now you don't have to say who wrote it. You can just say this is a book that was written in Korean. If you wanted to, you could add by 철수. This is a book that was written in Korean by 철수. You can say by 철수 if you want. You don't need to. You could just say this is a book that was written in Korean. Now you don't have to specify who. No one's going to care who. You're just saying it's a book that was, past tense here, that was written in Korean. That's it. I'm not saying who did it. It's just passive. So you can use both, but they have slightly different meaning. So in this case, I would recommend using 쓰인 if you want to say was written instead of 쓴, because this sounds more natural to say it's a book written in Korean. It doesn't matter who wrote it. If you wanted to say who wrote it, you would just say directly 철수 씨가 한국말로 쓴 책이에요. So it's a book that 철수 wrote in Korean. Let me write that. 철수 씨가 한국말로 쓴 책이에요. So it is a book written in Korean. 철수. So 철수 in Korean wrote the book. So it's a book written in Korean by 철수. But this is active voice. 철수 씨가 한국말로 쓴 책이에요. This is completely active voice. If you want to change it to passive, remember, passive would not have this 철수 씨가 because 철수 is not the subject. Now the subject is the book if you make it passive. So it is a book, right, that is written. Then you can add by 철수 if you want, but that's optional. Does this kind of make sense? So you can say both because logically both make sense if you want to say it's a book that someone wrote in Korean or a book that is written in Korean. So can only transitive verbs be put in passive? No. Let me check. Let me think about that. Transitive and intransitive are different than passive and active. It's not the same thing. This would be a perfect time. Wait, what? Plug your own book. Yeah, I do have all of this stuff in my books. There's actually a full lesson on everything I'm teaching today and like twice as much more is already in my book. Actually, this comes up in the third book because this is more of an intermediate topic. But my book has like a lot more than this. I just condensed what's in my book really small for this so that I can go over it really quickly because we only have 2 hours today. Billy never understands what I'm talking about. Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, Amon. Okay, so that's the difference. So both of them can be okay. But in this case, the passive sounds a little bit better, I think, to say a book written in Korean instead of saying a book that I wrote in Korean. Some types of verbs cannot become passive that way. So other types of verbs that end with 하다. Actually, let's do this a different way. Some verbs transform into passive by using 봤다. So if you see a noun plus 봤다, and it doesn't mean regular meaning of 봤다, to get, right? To get or to receive. This is the regular meaning of 봤다. If you see a verb and it's blah, 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 봤다, and it seems like, oh, it just means he received something. It does. Don't worry about it. But if you see something that says, that sounds kind of strange, like that doesn't mean receive, it's being used as passive. There's also a type of verb, and they're not too uncommon. Some verbs that become passive by changing to use 봤다 at the end. One example is some 하다 verbs. Some verbs that end with 하다 become passive not by changing into 되다, but by changing into 봤다. Oops, One example of that is 사랑하다. This is a really common example. 사랑하다 becomes, so if you want to say, I love BTS. 저는 BTS를 사랑해요. 사랑해요. I love BTS. What if you want to say BTS is loved? Right? You might want to say that. You might want to say BTS is loved by fans from all over the world. That sounds like a natural sentence. You know, a little fancy. You could say fans all over the world love BTS in active voice, but let's say you just want to say BTS is loved all over the world, right? To say is loved, you would never say 사랑되다. 사랑되다 would not mean to be loved. That would mean to become love. It would mean something completely different. It would be awkward. You would say 사랑을 받다. So this one, these ones you just have to memorize as separately because what they change into is literally to receive that noun. And all of them do this exact same form. 사랑을 받다 means to receive love, literally, but it's used as a passive verb to mean to be loved. There's more. Not just 사랑하다. 사랑하다, 사랑받다. So let me write that one down here because that's useful. 사랑을 받다. Oops. I got a donation. Oh, nice. Lynn Barsh. I have to leave early today, Billy, but you're the best. See you next week. 감사합니다, 빌리 선생님. All right, Lynn. Oh, say it. Take care. And make sure to finish watching it later if, unless this is, well, I assume you're able to follow along. You can watch it later, though, on the channel. Thanks. Let's do a dab. And y'all, I feel sick right now. Love me. I have no money, Ibrahim. Billy is closeted BTS fan. Okay, 사랑을 받다, to be loved. So you want to learn each of these passive verbs that I'm teaching today. I would just learn them individually. In fact, that might be even easier than having to stress about how to use the passive voice, but it's up to you how you want to learn it. Another common one would be 존경. 존경 means respect. And normally if you say I respect you, 존경을 하다, 존경을 하다, that's the way that people say in Korean to look up to someone. Yeah, like I really look up to you, or I really, literally they might translate it in English as respect, respect. So you might see translations of this as respect because literally it means to respect, but Koreans don't use it that way. They use it just to mean to look up to someone. So that's kind of an interesting thing. If you ever see subtitles that say like, 형, I really respect you. What they're actually saying is they should have translated it as this. Oh, I look up to you. Like, I really look up to you. You're cool. Like, I respect you, literally. So 존경을 하다 means to respect, but to become passive, to be respected, is actually to receive respect. They say to receive, to get respect. Another common one would be, 버리다. 버리다 means to throw away. 버리다 means to throw something away. Like I threw away trash. But this one's not 하다, but it becomes passive by using this 받다. 버림, which 버림 is actually a nominalization form. And I went over nominalization forms previously in a live stream. This is another one. This is the nominalized form of 버리다, which means throwing away. 버림을 받다. Literally to get, to receive, throwing away, or to be thrown away. They kind of use this one metaphorically also to mean like to be tossed out, right? Be tossed out. To be forgotten, to be stepped over. That kind of usage is how you'll see it. 버림을 받다, to be thrown away, to be thrown out. So yeah, that's one other common way to do it. Let's check the time. All right, we are good on time. I'm keeping into this. Okay. So to be thrown away, to be tossed out. So I would just learn these separately, write them down separately and use them. And there's a lot more. 감동을 받다 is another common one, like to be moved. I'll teach you that one. That one's really useful. 감동을 받다. 감동 is like an emotional like being moved. 감 means, if I do a 한자 stream, I'll teach you guys about this. 감 is emotion. Literally comes from the 한자, which means emotion. 동 is movement. So emotional movement, receive. So I received an emotional movement, literally, which just means I was moved. I was touched. To be moved, to be touched. Not like someone touched you, but like you felt moved by emotionally. So, I was moved when I watched that movie. It really moved me. Say, 정말 감동을 받았어요. Like I watched the movie. 정말 감동을 받았어요. I really got this emotional movement. I was really touched by that movie, or I really moved. It made me want to be a better person. That kind of thing. But it's really common that people will use this 감동을 받다 verb, which is a passive verb form of 감동을 시키다, or 감동하다, I guess you could use it. But, okay. Yes, we're going on to the next page, and I'm exactly within the right time for this. Okay, another common one. This one's not super common, but I'll just teach you it. 찍다 and 찍히다. 찍다 is to take a photo. So you would say 사진을, the normal verb for to take a photo, 사진을 찍다. But if you want to say a photo was taken, and now hold on, you might think that sounds really awkward. Why would I ever say a photo was taken? Like, hey guys, was the photo taken? It's not so common in English, but in Korean, this is okay. In Korean, this is a common way to say a photo was taken. So if you're with your friends and you're taking photo, like, okay, hey, I'm going to take a selfie. And your friend's like, hey, did you take the photo? Well, in Korean, you can ask, 찍었어요? Did you take it? Or 찍혔어요? 찍혔어요? Was it taken? And that's okay too. So it's another common verb that people will say, but it's different how they use it. So this is why I want to teach it. So you might think like, okay, I don't need this one because I'm just going to say every time I'll just say, did you take the photo? Or yeah, I took the photo, right? People use these slightly different. If you were to say 사진을 찍었어요, it's active, obviously. So that means, let me just write 사진을 here. 사진을 찍었어요 just means, yeah, somebody, I, you, whatever, someone took the photo. When in English, so think about this in English first. When in English might you normally say, my photo was taken? Think about that. It's the exact same in Korean. But think about that. When would you normally say, my photo was taken? Let's see who's going to get this first. School photo, you could, like I said, you could use it for photos, like photo was taken. But when would you say my photo got taken? Blood Falcon 2K7. Nice, you got one. At a police station, when speeding, flying across, yes, someone else took it. That's right, Vincent Kozo, you got the perfect answer also. So I'll give the first credit to Blood Falcon, and then for getting the first example, and then the other example would be someone else took it from Vincent. You got that right. That's another reason. So remember, going back to what we first said, passive is used when you also don't want to say who did it. So you could say 사진을 찍었어요, like, a person, someone did it. But you want to focus on the photo. You say the photo was taken. A photo was taken of me, right? My photo was taken. When would you say that? Well, yeah, at a traffic camera. You're speeding and you're like, 사진이 찍혔어요. Nobody took it. It doesn't matter who took that photo. It was just a machine. You're talking about, my photo got taken. And then, 3 months later, when you forget about it, you get a bill in the mail with your photo, and it's like you driving your car, and it's all black and white, so you can't even see what the light color was anyway. And it says, you're speeding through this intersection or whatever. And in Korea, that's really common because in Korea, every major city traffic light has cameras into it, built in. And they have speeding checks already along the road. So they don't have police officers pull people over in Korea unless there's like someone's dangerously driving and threatening other people. Then they can send out cops to get them. If you're driving and you speed too much and you drive by a speed camera, it just takes your photo. Nothing happens. 3 months later, a couple weeks later or whatever, you get a bill in the mail that says you were speeding. Here's your photo. Here's where it was. Here's the time and date. Pay up. That's it. If you are illegally parking, you just get a ticket. If you are driving through a red light, if it's red light and you drive right through. Now, this isn't in every system. A lot of them might not have cameras, but if you go through a regular one, you get caught, you'll get a photo. So 사진이 찍혔어요. My photo got taken. So that's when you use it. Oops. Because again, you don't want to say who did it. You just want to say the photo was taken, which is why passive tense is really useful. You could say, oops. Oh, I think the light got broke, but let me check to see who donated. Hold on, let me turn this off. Okay, let's see who donated. That was Robinette Broadhead. I ditched studying for an exam to be here. Yay, awesome, thank you. Let me put you up here. Robinette. I don't know how much PLN 10 is, but thank you. Hey, Himong, my converter. So, yeah, that's what I want to say is that if you don't want to say who did it, it's useful to use the passive tense for that. Let's see, it's 3:04. Okay, I got another 10 minutes to do these. Now for the most common, probably one of the most common things. So these are some of the most common passive verbs that you'll see. These are very commonly used. 보다, to see. 보이다, to be seen. To be seen, to see. 듣다, to hear. 들리다, to be heard. However, you might not think you would use these very often, because why would you need to say like, oh, the building is seen. I was seen. You could say it like, oh, I got seen. I was seen. Now they're going to kill me. Oh no, I didn't want to be heard. Now they heard me. You could use it like that too. But these are very commonly used to mean something different in English. So it does mean literally just to be seen. But it's used, think of it this way. It's used to mean to be visible. Or to be, so let's put to be audible. We'll go a little further than that as well. So anytime you would want to see something is visible, something is seen, literally, something is visible. Yeah, it's visible. It's visible now. To be audible. Yes, it's audible. It's audible now. These would be the verbs you want to use. Now if you're still thinking, okay, but Billy, I don't really say audible or visible very much. Maybe I could say like, it's not visible. Like I can't see it clearly. It's not visible, right? You can think of it like that. I can't see it because it's not visible. Or I can see it because it's visible. As well with 들리다, I can or can't hear it because it's audible or not. These verbs are used to mean can or can't see. And this one, can or can't hear. These are the ways that you say you can or can't see something or hear something in Korean. And we'll talk about how this is different from just saying directly you cannot see something or you cannot hear it. So some people might say, actually, let me give you some examples first before I go into this too much. So let's see. Let's use my red pen if that's still okay. Okay, 이건. Actually, let's just use. 잘 보여요? 잘 보여요? Literally, is it seen well? Which sounds really awkward if you were to ask someone, is it seen well? What you're really saying is it well visible? Is it visible well? Is it translating more naturally? Can you see it? Can you see it well? Like, do you have any difficulties to see it right now? 잘 here just means without difficulty. So if you see 잘 used often, it can be used to mean without difficulty. So can you see it? Can you easily see it right now? Yes or no? 잘 보여요? An example of how you might use this is, what if you're at a concert and you're really far away and there's a bunch of people standing up in front of you and your friend gives you a chair and says, here, stand on here. You stand on the chair. Oh, and your friend asks, hey, 잘 보여요? Can you see it now? Is it visible now? The stage, the show? Can you see everything now? Are you able to see it? Is it seen? Literally. 잘 보여요? Or 잘 들려요? If you're talking with someone on the phone and it's like Wait, hold on a second. 잘 들려요? Can you hear me now? Good. You remember that commercial? 잘 들려요? If they made this commercial in Korean, it would have been 이제 잘 들려요? Can you hear me now? So 들려요 is it easily without difficulty? Is it audible now? Can you hear me? 잘 들려요? So this is a common way to ask someone if you can see. Can you see? Can you hear? Like that. Let's see if I can do another example. You might want to say something like, there's not much, I don't really want to delete this all yet. Okay, 산, the mountain, 산이 안 보여요. 보여요. 산이 안 보여요. The mountain, 산, 안 is not visible. The mountain is not visible. The mountain is not seen. Or, more naturally, I can't see the mountain. It's too cloudy. Or, I can't see it. It's too far. It's too far away. It's too cloudy today. The weather's too bad. 산이 안 보여요. I can't see the mountain. That's exactly how you would say it. Or another example could be something like 음악. So 음악, music, 음악이. Oh, I think it's time to throw this pen away and get a new one. Hold on. Okay, that pen's thrown away. Let me get a new one. Ta-da! Okay, so you can say 음악, the music, 음악이 들려요? Is the music audible? Or can the music be heard? Or can you hear the music? So maybe you're listening on your friend's iPod and he's got speakers and he puts one in your ear and you could say 음악이 들려요? Can you hear the music? This is a really common way to ask someone if you can or can't see or hear something. So 보이다 and 들리다, although they're passive, so they're used like passive verbs, they are extremely common. So that's why I wanted to translate them as just can or can't see, because of how commonly used they are. But the actual meaning of them would be visible and audible. That would be the ways to say it. So now some people might ask, why are you writing and erasing utensils cursed? No, I found out that from other people who use markers that apparently markers like this have a very short lifespan anyway. So it's not that I'm cursed. It's that it's normal for them to die really quick. So before you ask, so some people might say, well, wait, Billy, but I can say 볼 수 있다 or 볼 수 없다, right? Literally, I can see and I can't see. Or I can also do it with to listen. And then 수 있다 or 수 없다, like that. I can or can't hear. I can or can't see. So they might say, Billy, what's the difference between just saying 볼 수 있다, 볼 수 없다, like I can see, I can't see, or I can hear, I can't hear, and using just 보이다, right? 보이다 or 안 보이다, right? Or whatever like that. What's the difference? Because they both mean cannot see. So why can't I just say 볼 수 있어요? Can you see it? 들을 수 있어요? Can you hear it? Because these literally mean that you have the ability. This 수 here has a meaning by itself, though you don't really need to know this. But the 수 for the 수 있다 form for can or can't actually means an ability, the ability to do something. So if you're saying 볼 수 있다, means you're literally saying I have the ability 있다, or I don't have the ability 없다, to see or listen. So if you are saying 볼 수 있어요, 볼 수 없어요, you are just saying that whether that's visible or not, doesn't matter. It's all on you, whether you are able to see it or not. If you said 안 보여요. So let me give you an example then. So what if you were to say 안? So in the example with the concert, you step on top of the chair, your friend gives you a chair, you look over at the concert, your friend asks you, 보여요? Can you see it? And you want to reply either 볼 수 없어요 or 안 보여요. What's the difference? There's a big difference. If you were to say 안 보여요, that means it's still not visible. We're too far, maybe. Maybe it's because you're too far. There's smoke. Maybe there's still lots of people. Maybe it's the concert. There's nobody on stage or some other reason. Just it's not visible. It's not my fault, right? This is passive. We're not saying who can or who can't see. We're not talking about me. I'm just saying no matter what, that's not visible. It's invisible to me. 볼 수 없어요 means I do not have the ability to see right now. I mean, grammatically, it's fine. It's not like awkward. But what you're saying is, oh, I need my glasses. 볼 수 없어요. 지금 볼 수 없어요. I can't see right now. I need my glasses. Or, oh, I have something in my eye. Or, oh, there's something blocking my face. I can't see. Like, you're literally saying you are the reason why that thing is not appearing to you. You're not saying that simply is not visible for whatever reason. You're saying active voice. I directly am causing this. I am doing this right now. So it's my fault, pretty much, is what you'd be saying. You could say either one. 볼 수 없어요. Oh, I can't see. I'm not able to see, right? But what you really just want to say is, no, like I'm seeing fine. Don't worry about that. We're just talking about the concert. We're just talking about that stage right now, or the mountain, or my face, or someone's face, or anything you want to say. And you don't want to blame it on, you don't want to say who isn't able to see. You just want to say it is not visible. It is not clear for whatever reason. So this would be natural 99 times out of 100. You would just want to say 안 보여요. Same with 듣다 for listening. If you said 들을 수 없어요, that means like I cannot listen to you. I cannot listen to you. I do not have the ability to listen to you. Maybe it's their voice could be completely clear. Like, oh, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? I cannot listen to you. My ears are broken. Or, oh, I hate you. I cannot listen to you. Like, something like that. It could be a different reason, not just that the person's voice is not audible. So you're placing the blame, you're not necessarily blame, but the reasoning, whoever is doing that, you're saying the person who's doing that with the active voice, and you're not with the passive voice. So it sounds much better to say 보이다 and 들리다 when you want to say you can or can't see something or hear something. So hopefully that's clear. I always want my lessons to be clear. Okay, 3:15. Great. Okay, let's check this out. 눈 못 떠. Can't open my eyes. Ibrahim, why wouldn't it be 잘 보이십니까? I would go back and review that 니다 conjugation form, because 보이십니까 would not be any correct conjugation. But if you're asking why is it not 보입니까, that's because it's with the ni or 니다. That's because it's the 니다 grammar form, the 니다 ending, which has a different conjugation from the yo form. 보이다 in the yo form becomes 보이, and then what do you add? You add 어, 보이어. But whenever it's a vowel after after a syllable without a consonant at the bottom, it combines. So you get 보여. And I did this before. 보여요. So that's why. And then the 니다 form would be you just attach. The 니다 form is much simpler. You just attach this after a vowel, or 씁니다 after a consonant, or 니까, whatever you want to use. So that's why it's not. And if you were speaking honorifically, you could say 잘 보이세요. So if you want to ask someone, can you see it? And they're a little bit older than you and you want to be polite. 잘 보이세요? 잘 들리세요? Can you hear me? Right? That's really common. So if you answer a phone call and it's your coworker, 잠깐만요. 잘 들리세요? Can you hear me? So you'd want to speak politely with this ending for that. And I also did a live stream about honorifics. So the next thing I need to talk about is how do you make new passive verbs? So we've talked about a few different forms, like what if it's 하다, changes to 되다, 나다, 내다, some become 봤다, right? We learned that 먹다 in the beginning became 먹히다. Well, what if you need a new passive verb and you just haven't, so you have an active verb, let's say 만들다, to make something. And what if someone asks you, 이게 뭐예요? What is this? 이게 뭐예요? and you want to say, oh, this is a board made of wood. That is made of wood. What if you want to say to be made of, right? Because 만들다 means to make. So 만들다 is active voice. You're making something. Making something. But what if you want to say it's made of wood? This is made of wood, not I made this with wood. You don't want to say 제가 만든 whiteboard. You don't want to say it's a board that I made, or you don't know who made it, and you don't want to say who made it. You just want to say the board is made of wood. Well, you're going to need a passive tense. But let's say you don't know this. Let's say you didn't memorize this yet. You just want to make it. So I just want a quick way to make passive verbs. This is all complicated. I just want to make passive verbs really easily. Well, unfortunately, there is no easy way to just switch any verb into a passive, but there's a ending you can stick on to some verbs to make that are active to make them passive. And what that is you conjugate the yo form. So you do the basic, most standard conjugation. So you just do regular conjugation, but you don't add the yo, and then you attach 지다. And then you can conjugate that. So 만들다 would normally in the yo form, when you're just conjugating it regular, is 만들어, right? And then you would add, past tense or yo or whatever you want to do. So now you have 만들어지다. Now you have the verb, the passive form of to make, which is to be made. So this is the form to learn. This does not apply to every verb, but it does apply to a lot of verbs that don't already have other ways to make them passive. So if you want to know some other verb and you're like, oh, how do I make that into passive? It might be able to become a passive like this. What I would do though is, if you want to know, can I make this active verb passive by using 지다? Then there's an easy way to find out. Make it, type it into a dictionary on Naver Dictionary or Taum Dictionary and see if it comes up. It will come up if it's an actual passive verb. So that's an easy way to know. So you don't have to guess what a passive form of a verb is. Just try it with this, and if it comes up, oh, there you go. That's a passive form of it. So 만들어지다 would be to be made. So we could say something like, let's see. Oh yeah, what is this made of? So now you can use this to ask someone, hey, what is this made of? So we're going to have what? 뭘로? 로 meaning of, so of or by. This is made by, made of. Sorry, not by as in someone did it, but by as in with or using. So 뭘로? First, let's just do it active. 뭘로 만들었어? 뭘로 만들었어요? Literally, what did you make it? So someone directly, actively did this. Made it of what? So 뭘로 만들었어? What did you make this with? But then you want to say, oh, I didn't make it. It is made of wood. Wood is 나무, which happens to be the same word for tree or wood. They just say tree. It's made of tree, which sounds kind of funny. So 나무로, made of or with. You'll use the 으로, this particle for saying what it is made of. 만들어졌어요. 만들어졌어요. 나무로 만들어졌어요. It is made of wood. I didn't make it. 제가 만들지 않았어요. 제가 만든 게 아니에요. I did not make it. 나무로 만들어졌어요. Someone else made it, but it's made of 나무로, made of wood. 만들어졌어요. Made of wood. It is, or was, literally, you probably want to translate that as was made of, because it's past tense. So it was made of wood. So this is one other way to make a verb passive, is by adding that 지다 after the conjugation form. Let's give another example of that. You can do 주다. 주다 is to give. It can become, conjugate it, 주어, normally 주어 or 주어요. So 주어지다. 주어지다 is to be given. So you might want to say something fancy like, this school was, this is a library that was given to us by the late Charsu Kim, something like that, right? In that case, you would need to know the verb for to be given. So you can use 주어지다, to be given. So now you can say something like 주어진 선물. The present that was given. So this is a present that was given, and you could say by 철수. 철수에게, right? 철수에 의해, right? The other example. 철수에 의해, 철수에게 주어진 선물. So this was a present that was given by 철수 or whatever. But that's not super common. Like I said, one more example of this form would be 당기다. So just a regular example. So 당기다 means to pull something. So if you're pulling, 당기다. If you want to make this into a passive, it actually becomes 당겨, right? So normally it'd be 당겨요, but you don't add the yo, so it's 당겨지다. 당겨지다, to be pulled. So you could say, oh, that my shirt was being pulled. And or something like that. You know, you can use it however you want. I can't think of when you would say my shirt was being pulled, but you can use it like that. However, the verb for to push, 밀다, to push does not become passive by becoming 밀어지다. It becomes passive by becoming 밀리다. So you can't just attach 지다 and assume that it's going to work. Verbs might have already their own passive form. And you have to be careful about that, which is why passive is so tricky, because you just have to learn each verb one at a time. So this 지다 is a common pattern that occurs, but it's not just an easy rule to change any action verb into a passive verb. So it works sometimes, but not always. So be careful that some verbs will just simply become passive verbs on their own with their own rules, and you can't just attach it anywhere. 25. Okay, so how would you know then? So, okay, I mentioned this at the very beginning of the lesson that I would come back to this. How would you know if a verb is passive? So I already gave you some examples. I gave you the 하다 to the 되다, 하다 to the 되다, the 봤다 example, the 나다. If you see something ends in 나다. I also did a few individual words, 보이다, 들리다, 바뀌다, 쓰이다, 찍히다. But if you see the 지다 form, it might be. However, I have to note though, this 지다, if you see the verb ends with 지다 in some form like 쳤어요 or 진, something like that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's passive either, because it only means it's passive if it's an action verb. So it has to be an action verb. If it was a descriptive verb, like 추워, for 춥다, to be cold, descriptive verbs can also add this 지다 form, but it has a completely different meaning. If you attach this 지다, conjugated in the same way, after the basic conjugation, 추워지다 does not mean, well, it couldn't mean cold in passive, because to be cold is not an active voice anyway. It's a descriptive verb, to be cold. 추워지다, 지다 on a descriptive verb means to become or to get. So this means to get cold. So you could say 많이 추워졌어요. It became very cold. But that has nothing to do with the passive. So this has to be action verb. If you see it an action verb that ends in 지다, maybe it's going to be a passive verb. Not always, but maybe it's going to be a passive verb. So one trick that kind of works is if you see one of these syllables that comes before the ta in a verb. So if the verb has I, he, bi, gi, it might be a passive. It might. And if it's not being used with an object, then it might be a passive verb. Example, so I said 밀다 to push becomes 밀리다. Oh, 리. Here we go. 리 might be passive. Keep an eye on it. 찍다 becomes 찍히다, remember? He. 찍히다, right? So if you see these, it might be a passive verb, but it doesn't necessarily mean it, because there's another class of verbs called causative verbs, and I could do a lesson on this in the future if you guys want it. But causative verbs also, they mean something completely different than passive verbs. And causative verbs can take an object. Causative verbs, they don't have to, but they could. And those use 이히, 리기, exactly like 이히, 리기, exactly like passive. Also, 우구, 추. Causative verbs use all these types. So it could be 이히, 리기 causative, or it could be 이히, 리기 passive, and you don't know unless you know the context. Which is my final point I wanted to make, that the only way to tell if a verb is passive or not, if you're reading a passive sentence, is to know what the verb is. If you don't know, so you don't know what that verb is, you just see it for the first time, try to look at what it might be. So if you see, for example, 먹히다, so you say 먹혔어요, try to think, okay, 먹혔어요 probably came from a verb form 먹히다, right? Because you know conjugation rules. So you know that 히다 would become 혔어요. So it probably came from 먹히다. Well, what does this look like? It kind of looks like 먹다 or something. It's probably eat, right? You don't know for sure if it's passive. You'll just know it's not the regular to eat. But you'll think, okay, maybe this is a passive form or it's a causative form. I'm not sure, but it's something. It's not the regular I ate. So let's keep an eye on that. So you can just kind of keep that in mind. The best way, though, to know if a verb is passive or causative or whatever is to know the context that the sentence is being used in. So let's say, if you were to say, for our previous example, kind of different though. 신호등이 바뀔 거예요. So we have the traffic light, just like before, 바뀔 거예요. Let's say you didn't know the verb 바뀌다. You didn't know that the verb 바뀌다 was a passive. But you know this looks different. This way, this isn't 바꾸다, this isn't change. Kind of looks like 바꾸다 though, so it probably is has something to do with change, right? Okay, good enough. How is it being used? It's being used with a subject marker, so it's not changing something. Okay, you can think like this, but look at the bigger picture. The light, change. Something change. The light change. Am I changing the light? No, because there's a subject marker. No one's changing it. Maybe this is passive. Maybe this means will be changed and not will change something. So you have to kind of know the context. It would make more sense that this would mean will be changed because of this subject marker here. So pay attention to the context of a sentence to know whether that verb being used is passive or not. And that's really the easiest way to know because you can't know otherwise. And you have to learn a lot of passive verbs in order to be sure that a verb is passive. So yeah, there's a lot of passive verbs to learn, but that's kind of what I want to say. Okay, let me just check the chat for a moment. We are doing okay on time. 3:30. Okay. 가 되다? 게 되다? Sleet Stalker, you have some typos there. 게 되다? No, that's not a passive. That's to become a certain way. So that can be used with any type of verb. And actually, it's funny you should ask that. All of my Patreon members, all of the highest tier Patreon members, they already have access to my videos in advance. And I just posted, just before we started live stream, that today's video, which is going to go on Friday, is a new Learn Korean episode. And the topic of that video is 개되다. So if you're one of the top tier Patreons, there's like 6 of you, love you guys, then you already can see this video. If you're one of the $10 tiers, they can already read the PDF, and everyone else has to wait until Friday. But yeah, you can learn about that on Friday because that's this week's topic. So it's funny you would ask that. Oops, we scroll down here. I always confuse passive and causative. I can do a causative if people want that. Causative would be just as advanced as today's lesson. So it's another advanced lesson. And it's different, completely different from passive, but the reason they get confused is because they can sometimes look similar to each other, but passive and causatives have nothing in common. Okay, let me check here. So the other question would be, what other cases would passive voice be necessary? So I've already explained how passive voice most of the time is not necessary. You can just speak in active voice unless the sentence sounds better in passive. So sometimes you might make a sentence that just sounds much better in English in passive voice. Feel free to translate that in Korean. Other times, you wouldn't know if something's better to be in passive voice or not. So don't use it. If you think it doesn't need to be in passive voice, you're like, this sounds kind of weird in passive voice. In English even, don't use it. Just use active voice. But there are some times when you have to use it. As I explained, I gave a few examples, like the one with the classroom. You can't finish your class unless you're the teacher. Or you want to say that you can't see something by not saying, I'm not able to see it, but like it's not visible, it's covered or something like that. So those are cases when you need it. Another case when you need it is whenever you're using a passive verb as an adjective. Oh, we got another donation. Carrie Rich. I've seen that name. I've seen that name several times. Oops. Drop my marker. Carrie Rich. Awesome. A tiny dab, please. Hold on. I think you broke it. And it keeps breaking, I swear. Like every few donations, the lights don't want to turn off by themselves. Okay, I have to manually turn them off on my phone. Okay, so a tiny dab. How do we do a tiny dab? How can I do a tiny dab? Maybe I can try like this. Like that? All right, thank you. So, anytime you're using a passive verb as an adjective, you have to use it as a passive, right? One example, you should use it as a passive. I'll say that you should. You don't have to. You should. So remember when I gave the example, 한국말로, oops, need to write this a little farther. 한국말로 쓰인 책, a book that was written in Korean. You wouldn't want to say 쓴 책. And if you were to say 쓴 책, it would have a different meaning. As I explained, it would mean a book that I wrote or somebody wrote. Somebody wrote it directly, actively wrote that. Not the book was written. Who knows who wrote it? You have to use 쓰인 in order to convey the meaning that it is a book written in Korean. Because if you just used active voice, 쓴 책, you're saying who wrote it. You're saying it. I actively wrote it, or you actively wrote it, or someone actively wrote that. And it sounds completely different. In this case, you have to use a passive. You can't really just say, oh, I'll just speak active voice unless you know who wrote it, right? What if you don't know who wrote the book? You could say, 제가 모르는 사람, someone who I don't know, 제가 모르는 사람이 쓴 책, a book that someone wrote who I don't know. 제가 모르는 사람, someone who I don't know. And you could say that. It's just unnecessary. It's like, why do you need to say someone I don't know? I mean, it's not important. You're just talking about the book here. So in that case, you really want to use passive. So anytime it's being used as an adjective, it's totally fine. It will not sound awkward to use a passive verb whenever it's being used as an adjective. But other times it can sound awkward. So just kind of pay attention to, what does your sentence mean in English? Does it sound perfectly fine in passive voice? If so, feel free to use passive. Otherwise, think about it again. Do I need to use passive voice here? No. Would it sound better if I didn't? Yeah, then don't use it. Easy. It's an easy test. So most of the time, you're not going to need to use passive voice at all. I know, seriously, imagine getting $10 to dab. Well, I mean, considering I spent $500 billion to travel to the moon, I've got a lot of money to pay back for today's stream. Okay, the other thing I wanted to say, so we're still okay on time, fortunately. So yeah, anytime that a passive verb is being used as an adjective, feel free to use it as long as it sounds okay to you in English. And this is the nice thing about passive, is that you don't necessarily have to think, does it sound okay in Korean? You could just think, does it sound okay in English? Okay, yeah, it sounds like okay, don't use it. Try to be a little more strict when you're doing passive. So if it sounds good in English, it's going to sound good in Korean. If it sounds like a little strange in English, it's going to sound really strange in Korean. So anything is like kind of amplified. If you want to say a book that was written in Korean, it sounds perfectly good in English and it sounds perfectly good in Korean. But if you were to say like, this book was written in Korean, would you say that? This book was written in Korean. You could. if it's a context when you would want to say that, then go ahead. Otherwise, you would just want to say, if you want to say who wrote it, like, for example, I'm showing you my book. This is my book. It's a book that was written in Korean. It sounds really awkward because I wrote it. I just told you I wrote this book. So, of course, I wrote this book. Just use active voice. But if you're pulling up this book, wow, what's this book? Who made this? Wow, it's a book that's written in Korean. That's perfectly fine, right? So notice how the context makes it different. And in English too, you would have to say it's a book written in Korean because you don't know who it is. But if you were to say, oh, this is my book, or this is, my mother's book, it's a book that was written in Korean. Sounds really awkward. You just say, oh, she wrote it in Korean, or I wrote it in Korean. So pay attention to the context and you'll be okay. All right, we actually have enough time to do something fun. Now, we don't normally do this, but this is an intermediate lesson, but I do want to give you guys some advanced Korean for today. So if you want, here's some advanced Korean. You probably do not need this. Okay, so the regular word for a verb in Korean, and this is if you want to ask your Korean friend a question about what we're doing today. The regular word for Korean is 동사. 동사. Be careful not to say, don't say 동사, 동사. It's 동사. If you say 동사, 싸다 means to poop. So you're saying like poop if you pronounce it wrong. So be careful how you pronounce that. But 동사 is the regular word. Oh, Caitlin. Hold on, let me write your name up here. Caitlin Wagoner sees tiny dab, breaks glass on floor. Another? Oh, okay, I see like you're at a bar and you throw the glass at the floor. Another. All right. Okay, hold on. Caitlin Wagoner. Okay, you want another tiny dab? Okay, I'll try. It's kind of hard to do. I'll try to do a smaller one. It's just getting like raptor claws at this point. Okay, so 동사 is the regular word for verb, and the regular word for passive verb is actually really easy. Oh, and I'll teach you a little bit of 한자. Also, okay, so this is not a lesson on 한자, but if it helps to know a little bit. So the regular word for passive is 피 동사. Now this doesn't mean 피 blood. This is 피 from 한자. 피 actually means by something else caused it. So let's see, 피 would be due to, caused by, externally, passively. Maybe passive is a good way to translate this 피. Something else is doing. So you have this word 피 by itself comes to mean the word passive. 동 means movement. 동. Just like remember I said 감동 means like emotional movement. Well, it's the same 동. It's the same 한자. And then 사 means a particle. Particle. So P, passive, movement, particle. So it's a movement particle, which is a verb, that is passive. So this is the word for passive verb. Another terms you can use are 능동태. 능동태. Yeah, I guess I could teach that. 능동태 is active voice. You don't need this word, but if you want, you can use this verb. Sorry, you can use this word to talk to Koreans. And fortunately, the word for passive voice is very similar to that. 수동태. Passive voice. So while passive verb is 피동사, passive voice is 수동태. This 태 means a form. 동, here again, movement. 수 here is, I believe this would be the manual. As in by itself. By itself, moving, doing something. So verbing, verb, form. So this is a form doing something by itself. 능동태 is something actively doing something, form. So 능동태 is active voice, 수동태 is passive voice. You can also call these 능동태 동사 if you want like the technical word for passive words. I'm only doing this because we have extra time. I normally wasn't going to do this today. So 능동태 동사 would be an active verb. If you want to use the term active verb, not just verb, 능동태 동사 or 수동태 동사 is okay too, as well as 피동사. So you can use this or you can say 피동사. Either one's okay. Or Or you can also say just 피동태 for passive voice. This one's okay too. So instead of 수동태, you can also say 피동태. So now you don't have to write down any of these words if you want. It's just if you're interested, if you're already intermediate and you want to learn some advanced terminology, like how can I talk about these to my friends? Here you go. You can say active voice, 능동태. 능동태 동사 for active verb. For passive voice, you can say 수동태 or 피동태. And for passive verb, you can say 수동태 동사 or 피동태 동사 or just 피동사, which is like a shortening of 피동태 동사. So either of those are okay. I know it's a bit complicated, but you might find it useful at least to know the word 피동사. You can kind of refer to, in Korean, you can kind of refer to all passive voice, like the passive idea in general, as 피동사. So you'd say, oh, I'm trying to learn about 피동사. You can just say 피동사, and it doesn't sound too technical. Whereas if you were to say, oh, I'm learning about 피동태 동사 or 수동태 동사, then they'll think, wow, that's a really technical word. You don't need it. But 피동사 is really useful, as is the word just 동사. So good to know. Let's just check out the chat. Yeah, this is when I zone out. Yeah, I know. That's why I kept it short. So that was only 4-minute explanation. Okay, so we're almost done. I know I was speaking really quickly today because we had this is actually, believe it or not, this is actually the longest lesson I've ever done. It's 2 full pages at a smaller font. So I had to write 3 o'clock, 3:15, 3:30, 3:40. That way I can keep on schedule so that we wouldn't run out of time today. So a few notes to do is, in general, again, avoid passive if you can. If you think it doesn't sound great in passive tense, don't use passive tense. If you think this sounds really good in passive tense in English, then use passive tense. So that's an easy test. Just be a little more picky about it. So if you think I could say it in passive, but I could say it in active, say it in active. It's going to sound more natural. And even if you can say something in passive voice, most of the time Koreans just speak in active voice, as well as in English. Most of the time things are just said in active voice. Also be careful when you create new passive verbs. So like I said with 지다, check everything in the dictionary. So don't just say, oh, I think this verb should become 알다 for to know. What if I want to say to be known? Well, I think it has this 릴 at the bottom. So I saw that the verb 밀다, to push, became 밀리다, right? So I think that 알다 is also going to become 알리다. In this case, you would be right. 알다, to know, becomes 알리다, to be known. And 알리다 is a commonly used passive verb. But you might be wrong. You might say, oh, I think it should become 알히다, right? You'd be totally wrong. So after you make this, you say, okay, 알리다. I think it is this. I'm going to make this and I'm going to use it because I want to say it's well known. 잘 알리다. I think it's well known or something. And you guess. 잘 알리다 is actually not used. But 알리다 by itself is used. So check this in a dictionary. If you search this in a dictionary, you'll find, yes, it does mean to be known. Okay, good. But be careful whenever you're making a new verb because you can easily mess up. In this case, actually, if you wanted to say to be known, while 알리다 is used, a more common way is 알려지다. 알려지다. So it's like a combination of the passive with this 지다 form, which is something I didn't go into today's lesson on, but my book does. My book goes over what's called double passive. In book 3, it's like a really advanced concept, but it's common enough that I had to include it in the book. So you'll see that too. But always check everything in the dictionary before you just use it because it might not be used or it might not be used in the way you think it's used. Another thing I want to say is that you might think that you can ask your Korean pen pal for help about passives. So you might think, oh, I learned a lot about 비동사 today from Billy. I even learned the word 비동사, passive verbs. Okay, I'm gonna get a new blue marker soon. Yeah, I'm gonna tell that to my Korean friend, right? You say, hey, my Korean friend, I learned about 비동사 today, and they say, wow, that's great, that's difficult. Hey, Korean friend, what is the 비동사 of 당기다, right? Which is, I told you, 당겨지다. You can say, hey, what's the 비동사 of 당기다? The Korean person might tell you, I don't know. if you say to them, oh, it's 당교지다, right? They'll say, huh, yeah, I guess it is. But Koreans don't think about what is passive and what is active in Korean. So good luck getting help on this from your Korean friends. What you can do, however, is just make a sentence and ask the Korean person, a passive sentence, and ask your Korean friend, does this sound natural? Or you can come in the Discord and you can make a sentence and ask me or someone there, say, hey, does this sound natural? You can do that. But what you can't do is say to a Korean, give me the passive tense of this, or is this a good passive verb to use? Because most Koreans actually don't know about this very much. Unless they've studied it, it's not a general concept that Koreans learn. Oh, awesome. Let's see who I got a donation from. Sam Strongarm. Oh, Sam. I had a feeling it would be Sam Strongarm for some reason. I just knew it. Let's see. Hey, Billy, thanks for all the effort you put into planning the lessons. I'm sure it probably takes ages to do. Please don't dab for me. All right, no dab, but thank you. Just give you thumbs up. Maybe that's worse than a dab. So yeah, don't worry if you ask your Korean friends and they tell you they don't know about this. That doesn't mean that they're dumb or that they just don't know their own language. No, it's because this is not something that Koreans focus on learning. It's not something that they learn about their own language unless they're specifically studying this to be a teacher. So don't expect your Korean pen pals to be able to explain it to you. That's completely normal. And on the other hand, if you find a Korean who can explain these to you and tell you, oh yeah, that's pidongsa for this, and that's not the right pidongsa. Oh yeah, find them, catch them, buy them lunch. Like, that's great because that's really rare to find Koreans who know about this type of thing. Another point is, I was gonna say that there are many exceptions to these rules because passive, as you maybe are feeling through this lesson, it's a giant topic. So it's not just like, oh, I just learned like a few rules and like change 하다, 되다, don't do these ones, change this verb to this verb and that. It's a bigger topic than I've explained today because of all of the different verbs that you might use. For example, to pack. All right, I guess to stack something. I guess to pack up. Okay, stacking something, 사타. But what if you were to say it is like there's a big pile of books stacked up? Now, the reason this is difficult is because you don't use the word stack so often unless you're a fluent Korean speaker. Okay, so you would learn that the passive of to be stacked, to be stacked, the passive of to stack is 사이다, 사이다, 사이다. So you might say, oh, the books were stacked. So you would say 쌓였어요, right? And you would be kind of wrong. The books were stacked. 책들이 쌓였어요. You'd be kind of wrong because in Korean they wouldn't say they were stacked up. You would say when you were saying they're stacked, you're saying they are currently right now. There's a big stack of books. They are in the state of having been stacked. And that's a different grammar form. It is past tense. It is passive voice, but it is actually the 여 있다 form, the 어 있다 form, which we haven't learned in a live stream yet. Or did I? No, I did. I did a live stream about states, right? I think I did a live stream about states. Did I? Check if I did. I might have done one. Anyway, this is a different form. So you have to use passive voice and this tense to show that something is currently stacked, not just that something was stacked. Because if you were to say 쌓였어요, 책들이 쌓였어요, it means maybe they're gone now. You don't know, just at some point somebody stacked them, they were stacked, and who knows now. But if you use this form now, they currently are stacked up. So now you can say there's a stack of books over there. There's books stacked up over there. And the reason this is complicated is because when are you going to know how to use this to be stacked, to stack something? You're never going to use this unless you already can speak Korean. So it's hard to even grasp the next verb until you can use Korean well. It's really hard to climb up this passive, like to get comfortable with using passive verbs because of how much other Korean you have to know in order to be able to use it. So with that said, don't worry. Don't worry about not fully understanding passive verbs. Just understand the ones that I've taught today, okay? And as you use more Korean, you'll learn more. So on purpose, I didn't include a large list of passive verbs for today. There are more. What if you were to say like to hit someone or to be hit, right? You can say 치다 or 치다, to be hit. Like he got hit by a car, right? You wouldn't say the car hit him. You could, but you would want to say, oh, he was hit by a car today, right? You'd have to use the passive to be hit. Well, the verb for hit normally is 치다, and the verb for to be hit is 치이다. To kick something is 차다, and to be kicked is 차이다. You know, I could go on. There's hundreds of these. And I'm not a native Korean, but even I know hundreds of different passive verbs because I've seen them being used. But if you're still making sentences, you're not going to be able to actually use those. So they're going to be like all going over your head. Like, what is this? Like, I don't need, how can I even use this passive verb for to be hit? Like, I've never even used to hit anyway. Like, it's so rare. Like, so don't worry about it, really. Do not concern yourself with this. This was something I stressed out a lot about when I was learning Korean. Eventually I got it just by forgetting it and just doing, going into Korean conversation. So it's not something you have to stress about, but just be aware of the basic rules. Jasmine Escobar. Oh, awesome. Thanks. Jasmine Escobar 10. Awesome. Whoa, 10. It's a big donation. Do you normally teach informal or formal? I don't focus on just one or the other. I teach both. So most of the examples today have been in informal or honorific, but I also do formal. So like I was saying, 보이세요 earlier for the seo form, both. You kind of have to know both because you have to know how you're speaking to people and speak differently depending on who you're talking to. So let me just do a dab for that. Thank you. Okay. All right. So so that's just what I want to say is that don't worry about this. Again, I worried about this a lot when I was learning Korean. I remember before I could even make Korean sentences, before I was even like fully conversational in Korean at all, I was stressing about passive. I was learning about passive verbs and they were just killing me. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how am I supposed to ever do this? There's like a different passive verb for every single verb, it feels like. I mean, they all apply, they all seem similar. When you learn enough, you'll see, oh, I see it. It looks passive. Oh, that's similar to that. It's not that hard to memorize it, but it's hard to actually even use it. Like, how do I even use this verb? Like, even if I learn, 먹히다 means to eat. How would I ever use like was eaten? Like, I can't see a situation when I do it. So don't worry about it. I ended up, not worrying about that and doing something else. And then when I looked back again, a year later or so, I was like, oh, I guess I get it now. Yeah. Because I had actually exposed myself to Korean and learned verbs by hearing them. I heard someone say, 차에, by a car, 차에 치였어. 차에 치였어. So I heard, 치였어. I know 치다 is hit. So 치여, must be passive. Oh, the passive must be 치여. Oh, and to say by, it must be a if it's an inanimate object, and 에게 for a person, right? So I picked it up by hearing it, and then I got that. And then later it's like, oh yeah, of course that's passive. I can totally tell by the context. But it's not something you really should worry about. So know it, learn the basics, learn the grammar for it. But do not kick yourself for not getting this fully. Just understand the verbs that I taught today and kind of feel like, I get how 끝나다 and 끝내다 are different. Yeah, I get how 바꾸다 and 바뀌다, 하다, 되다. I get how those are different. Yeah, I get what passive voice is and how to use it. But don't feel like, I can't use passive voice. It's so hard. That's natural. You will not get it. Like, you won't really fully get it until you're able to actually already make Korean sentences. So you can come back and review this later, but I wouldn't stress about it. I wouldn't make a list of passive verbs and memorize them. That will be a waste of your time. You will learn those verbs just from being exposed to Korean. So that's my message. That's what I want to say. Don't worry about it. You are totally fine. Give you a pat on the head. You are smart. You can do it. It just takes time. So don't beat yourself up. So that's all for today's lesson. We actually finished on time, thankfully. So another thing I'll just say again, as I always say, if you're a Patreon member, every Patreon member gets access to all the outlines. So today's outline will go on the Patreon page probably within the hour. I'll upload this. And this has more sentences and more examples than I could do today because I wanted to make sure we finished on time. But these are up there, all of them. You can see any week's outline. Also, if you want updates, Discord. It was actually the Discord chat. That was where people gave me the idea to fly to the moon today because I didn't know where I should do my live stream. And the regular marketplace I did last time, they kicked me out. They wouldn't let me back. So people in the Discord said, go to the moon. So it's great. So yeah, go to the Discord. You'll get updates. You get special stuff in there, and it's fun. Lots of cool people in there. Oh, awesome. Oh, Jasmine again. Jasmine, what are you doing? So best way to learn is to be exposed to Korean. For passives, yes. For passive verbs, passive voice, the best way to learn these is to be exposed to them a lot, because you can learn them by speaking, but you're not going to learn new ones by speaking Korean. You'll only learn new ones by hearing them and seeing them being used. So that's it. Just the more you speak Korean, the more you'll learn these. But I would recommend against, so I would say do not find a list online of Korean passive verbs and learn them, unless you're already fluent. If you're fluent at Korean, you're like, oh, I just need some more passives. That would help. Yes, then passives will help you. Go ahead. But if you're learning these and you don't know how to use them very well, do not do that. It'll be a waste of your time. So thanks again for the donation. And yeah, so check out the Discord as well. You get me in there. Yes, and of course the Discord, the best feature of the Discord is that Ahimong is always hanging around, loitering, spending her time in the chat. And there's a lot of cool people in there though, not just Ahimong. You can practice Korean there. You can ask questions. I'm in there sometimes too, so you can sometimes ask me questions directly even. And there's people who can explain Korean stuff and provide links for where you can learn. So it's great. We're growing. We have well over 1,000 members in there now. So yeah, check that out. Thank you everyone for coming. Why do you hurt me? Backhanded compliments. No, it's just, they're just backhanded compliments of love, right? You know, you got the backhanded. I can't do a backhanded heart. That doesn't work. It's a diamond, okay? He's using you as a reason to be on Discord. So with that said, everyone, thank you for coming. Again, check out the Discord. If you're a Patreon member, check out the Patreon like an hour from now, and you'll get all the outlines for that. With that said, I gotta go back to Earth because I have to quickly upload this the Discord outline. And if I don't get back in time, then I won't. Yeah, it's gonna be a problem. So I go back. So everyone, thank you for coming. I will see you guys again next week. Remember that the vote will go live on Tuesday, so pay attention to the vote. See you guys next time. 그럼 다음에 또 봐.